Senator Whitver, I'll start with you on this. Do you expect to see any legislation and debate legislation that would address the state's recount process?
Well, I think what the 2020 election told us more than almost anything is election law matters, and having secure elections that people believe in matter. And that's why even back to years ago, we were trying to bring some integrity to our elections to make sure that Iowans have confidence in our elections. And even as late as June and July, we're trying to make decisions, and I said this on the show in June, the number one thing we need out of our elections is they need to be secure, people need to trust them, and the rules need to be in place far enough in advance so both parties know what the rules are. And so we made many changes last year in June and then in the Legislative Council to make sure that was the case. I believe in Iowa, people did believe in the integrity of the elections. I believe they were secure. There are other issues that popped up, like the recount process, that I think we do need to address, because secure elections that Americans believe in is the foundation of our entire country. That is what America is. And we need to make sure that we have full faith in our elections, and anything to clean up the recount process we should be looking at. And what some of the auditors did as far as trying to go around the rules with the voter ID absentee stuff, that can't stand either. You can't have 8 counties doing one thing and 91 counties doing another thing. It needs to be consistent across the board. And so there will be some cleanup stuff, but overall, our election law is in a really good spot. We've had Robbie Smith, Bobby Kaufman working on that for years, and they're doing a really good job. And again, it's to try to make the playing field balanced for everybody.
So if it is overall, you talked about maybe some little cleanups overall, so should we not expect anything that significantly changes state election laws, early voting, anything along those lines?
I think it's too early to tell that. I mean, we give a lot of faith to our committee chairs to work on these. I certainly don't sit around and dictate every little change we're going to make, and they've been working on it. But I think overall our election laws are pretty good, and there is a little bit of cleanup we need to do, though.
Mr. Speaker, whenever I hear legislators talk about tweaking election laws, I can also imagine that some people don't think it's a tweak, that it's a massive rewrite. It just depends on whose ox is getting gored. What about what Senator Whitver said? Do you think we need to just simply work on the recount issue in the legislature, or do you have other things?
No, I think at this point in time, I think when it comes to election law, our priority needs to be, and we've seen this for the last several months all across the country, is Americans, not one party or the other, I think want to make sure that we have secure, reliable, and safe elections.
But go ahead.
And to your point specifically, I would say that if things need to be on the table that further advance that so Iowans have faith in their elections, from the House's perspective, I think that needs to be part of the conversation.
Do either of you expect to make changes to Iowa's absentee law system? Democrats cleaned up with that. They did a better job. They put more emphasis on it than your party. Speaker Grassley, will you be making imposing restrictions on absentee balloting?
Again, whatever, at this point, I think it's too early to tell from that standpoint. If it brings further faith and confidence in our elections, I think the legislature has a duty to look at those.
So, Senator, restrictions on absentee
I think
voting?
the number one thing that we need to look at with the absentee is what the auditors did to try to get around the law. The court shot them down 3-4 times, but it still doesn't change the fact that they were trying to skirt our absentee law.
But the time period and that, and the reason, to your point, Representative Grassley, a lot of the lack of trust in the electoral system has been caused by some elected officials putting out misinformation about the election process, making complaints that are completely unverified. So are we setting ourselves up to make changes for a problem that doesn't exist? Or I guess that's the
well,
question.
I think we heard the same thing when we passed voter ID several years ago. Just this last session, we heard the same complaints when we tried to have an even more secure absentee ballot process. I can't control what other people are saying or what they claim, especially in other states. I think we had record turnout. We had a great election here in Iowa, very safe and secure. But if we need to do more things that give that security, I think we need to be having those discussions. And it wouldn't be based on anyone's tweet or thing that we read in the newspaper. It's going to be actual things that we hear from Iowans. That's going to be our priority.
I would just add that the number one argument we hear at the Capitol on the debate floor is Republicans are about voter suppression. And that's BS. We had the largest turnout we've ever had. It's about making sure that when the election is over, Iowans believe in the result. And that's what we've been working on. There's no voter suppression. We have higher turnout than we've ever had, but they are secure.